you've obviously, you're a veteran of the startup space,
I
if you don't mind me saying,
far,
but you're close to it, right? You've been
Yeah.
part of, one amazing brand, and now you're building your own thing. I think that's, anything but a huge success. So do you think that environment is really for everyone? And do you think that it's a very difficult environment to be yourself in?
It's very much a sink or swim, right?
Yeah.
It's like super intense. You have to be willing to almost live and breathe the brand that you become a part of, because that's what it takes. So you have to really enjoy and love what you're doing. You're not going to work a traditional 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You're not going to get to a Friday afternoon and be like, God, I've got so much energy to go and do loads of stuff this weekend, because you've not far off burnt yourself out during the week before, because it's super intense and it's constantly changing. But for some people, that's exactly what you want. And for me, it was perfect. Like, I'm probably quite far down the ADHD spectrum. So having something that's constantly changing as a role, where there's a new thing coming in each day and you take on lots of different challenges simultaneously, rather than become super specialized in one thing, and there's less pressure on you and you get your hand held through that. So like, these are the problems we've got. How many can you solve and how quickly can you solve them? And you don't get to the end of the day and it's like, that's the day done.
Yeah.
Because you can always do more and there's further to push that task, and you have to then become quite strict at setting your own boundaries and working out when the day finishes and when the day starts and when the day finishes. So I don't think it is for everyone. I think it's great for a lot of people, and if you thrive in it, you really thrive in it and you really love what you're doing. And it always have you heard of the Japanese phrase ikigai?
I have, yeah.
So it's a great way to like start that process if you're thinking about getting to the startup world.
Yeah. Just for those who don't, do you want to explain?
Yeah, so ikigai is a Japanese term which essentially is your calling in life. And it's the cross-section of 4 Venn diagrams, or 4 circles within a large Venn diagram. And it's what you're good at, what you love doing, what makes you money, and what's good for the world. And if you can find something that fulfills 3 of those, then that's a really good thing to do. You can find something that fulfills all 4. That's your ikigai, that's your calling in life.
Yeah.
So it's a great place to start looking and working out, like, if you wanted to get into a startup, you wanted to get involved in a startup, how many of those boxes does it fill? And I would say if it's not more than 2, it's going to be pretty tough. Yeah.
And do you think that, particularly in that startup environment, it's really important to have that idea? Because if it's 1 or even 2, maybe it's too much in a way.
I think so, because like I said, you have to then become passionate about it.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard to become passionate about something that's either not making you money and you're not good at, or it's not good for the world, or whatever it might be. If you're missing 2 of those things, then I don't know, I think you're going to struggle to become really, really passionate about whatever it is you're doing. Yeah. If you lose one of those things, fine. Like, if it's making you money, you're good at it, and it's good for the world, that's a pretty good starting point, or whatever the combination of the 4 is that works for you.
And did you find that Punchy?
Yeah, I did.
It was there, it was whole?
I don't think it was all 4, but I think that's what sort of gave me the space to then start thinking about what I might do next, and what I think I found with Batch now.
Amazing. And what was your biggest struggle at Punchy? Because I think there's hopefully a lot of people that listen to this that are maybe in that startup environment.
Yeah.
I know loads of people in the F&B space who are trying to build their own thing, or they're part of amazing brands, and some of our team at 303 have been in that place. But what was your biggest struggle through that kind of time? What was the biggest challenge for you in working in that environment?
I think I had to learn very quickly that like, I wasn't top dog, if that made sense. So I'm very opinionated. I come in with loads of energy and loads of steam, and I had to learn to measure that and actually sort of, and I learned the hard way. It took me a while to pick that up, and found myself in arguments with the founders that didn't need to happen, because ultimately it wasn't my decision to make.
Interesting. So, was that early on, or was that kind of as you were spending more time there? When you...
A bit of both, because I joined as it launched.
Of course,
I was very much part of the founding team, but I wasn't a founder, if that made sense. And Which
is a hard place to be.
It was a hard place to be. And it was actually a really good learning curve for me going into business, to work out, like, if you're not the decision maker, then you need to measure your opinion slightly, and you're well within your right to give over an opinion, and it may be the better way of doing things, but in reality, like, steady on there. It's not your decision to make. Work out when to give it, when to not, pick your battles, etc. And that is something that I'm still learning, moving into the next stage. But it's slightly different when it's your decision, or it's you and your co-founder's decision, or whatever. So that was definitely a challenge for me, is just sort of measuring that, working out how to get along with people, and
And how did you overcome that challenge? Like, what was it?
I think it was
a process thing and being
a process thing. First thing is like being aware of it.
Yeah.
Second thing is like realizing that doesn't necessarily make your life easier. Also, like being pedantic and a control freak, which are two traits that I have.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. There's two ways of doing something that will end up giving you the same result, and one might be a slightly longer way than the other, but does it really matter? And I've got a very ops mindset and very logical and very strategic, and so I'm always like, it has to be the best way of doing it. It has to be the most efficient way of doing it. Sometimes that's not possible, and a lot of the time you have to let other people learn that. You have to also recognise that you might have not got that quite right. I think the list goes on.
Yeah.
So yeah, part and parcel of just like an experience thing, as opposed to here are some things that I'm going to work on doing to fix that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like be aware of it and then learn that like actually.
And never forget in a way, right? Never remember that that's kind of how you once were, and I'm sure now in your current position you might have had it the other way from the other side of the fence, which is probably quite interesting to be a part of.
Big